please tell us about the Mitani dynasty and its role in debunking the Aryan picnic theory. The Mitani dynasty, the Mitani empire. So there is, in Syria, there are all these archaeological sites, okay? In the 20th century, there were these Western archaeologists who were excavating, what was it? Was it Hattusa? Maybe a place called Hattusa, which was one of the major sites, one of the major cities of the Mitani empire, possibly. And they were excavating, they found various stone tablets. And they deciphered the stone tablets, and it gave them the shock of their life. Because it was a peace treaty between the Mitani and the neighboring kingdom, the Hurrians, I believe. The Mitani and the Hittites. The Mitani kingdom and the Hittite kingdom. A peace treaty. It was in the Hurrian language. But when you do a peace treaty, you need to have great divine witnesses, right? That this treaty is blessed by the gods and so on. So as the divine witnesses, you had the names of Mitra, Varuna, Indra, all that. So there was the shock of their life. I mean, this is a peace treaty between the Hittites and the Mitani in one of the major cities of the Mitani. And you have this treaty being blessed by the Aryan gods, Mitra, Varuna, Indra, etc. So how on earth is that possible? Then they did more excavations, and they found this horse trading manual. A horse trading manual. A manual for how to take a regular horse and train that horse into a war horse that can fight battles. It's a step-by-step, multiple month-long manual. That on day 1 you do this with your horse. Day 2 you do that. Each day exactly what to do, what to feed the horse, how many circles of the theater of the racetrack he should take, what he should drink, what he should not eat, the horse, and exactly day by day it's a breakdown of how to convert a standard regular horse into a war horse. A horse trading manual in the Hurrian language. But once again, when you decipher that, there are certain shocking things. Because the Hurrian language did not have specific terminology, specific words for specific scientific terms. So the guy who wrote this training manual, his name was Kikuli the Mitani. He had to introduce terms in a foreign language for those technical terms. Navavartana, 9 rounds of the race course, of the horse track, right? Navavartana. And various other Sanskrit terms he had to use, because those terms did not exist in the Mitani language. So a whole bunch of Sanskrit terms are used in this Hurrian language horse training manual by Kikuli the Mitani. So Kikuli tried his best to write this horse training manual in the local language, but some words did not exist. That's why he had to use his own language for those scientific terms, for those technical terms. So once again, you have a guy who is a high status horse trainer who's using Sanskrit terms because the terms did not exist in this language. So eventually it became clear that the Mitani Empire was located in Anatolia and Syria, but its elite were Sanskrit speakers and Hindus, essentially Indo-Aryans, Indians, Aryans, right? So the aristocracy and the royalty was Indo-Aryan, but the common people were the Hurrian-speaking local people. So that was the Mitani Empire, and they had kings who had proper Sanskrit names, Tvesha, Ratha, and whatever the names are. And these kings also had extensive diplomatic correspondence with the Egyptian pharaohs. There is something called the Amarna letters, in which you have multiple letters that are sent by Tvesharatha, the king of the Mitani, to the king of the Egyptians. And there's this back and forth between the two kings. And then the pharaoh dies. So the Mitani king sends a letter to the widow of the pharaoh, continuing the correspondence. And then the widow's son becomes the next king. So he continues the correspondence with the next king. That sort of thing. So this was a big empire, very strong, powerful empire, very rich empire. It was ruled by Indo-Aryans, by people of Indian ancestry. And if you look at the Sanskrit terminology that is used, it is late Vedic. It is not Rig Vedic, it is late Vedic terminology. So how did this happen? Does it mean that these were the Aryans who then invaded India? Does it mean that? Does it really mean that? No, not quite. These were, and at the same time where you have the emergence of this Mitani empire, and the next door you had the Hittites, who also had an Indian aristocracy, an Indian ruling class, right? Mitani kingdom, Hittite kingdom, both have local people who speak local languages, but the ruling class, the royalty, is Indian in both cases, right? And this is about 1500 BC, about 3,500 years before today. About 500 years before that, before the emergence of the Mitani kingdom, empire, 500 years before the emergence of the Mitani empire, you have the sudden introgression of a specific animal into West Asia. What is that animal? It is the Indian zebu cattle, the cattle with the big humps, big humped cattle, which you see in the Indus Saraswati region seals, those big bulls with the big humps. Those cattle suddenly emerged, suddenly appeared in West Asia, 500 or so years before the emergence of the Mitani and Hittite empires. And that's around 2000 BC that the cattle appear in West Asia. At the same time, these cattle also appear in Egypt. So cattle, Indian origin cattle, which originated in India, nobody can disprove that. This is a fact. The zebu cattle originated in the subcontinent. And cattle were domesticated. Cattle don't decide one morning, okay, let us go to do a migration. We will go to West Asia. Cattle don't decide that. Cattle do whatever their masters tell them. So this indicates that Indians traveled to West Asia around 2000 BC with cattle and settled there. And eventually, you had the rise of these empires, Mitani and Hittite empires. This is out of India migrations, thousands of kilometers west of India. Now, is this attested in Indian literature? There is a late Vedic text called the Bodhyayana Shrota Sutra. Bodhyayana Shrota Sutra. Let's Wikipedia it, shall we? Let's Google it. What does Wikipedia have to say about the Bodhyayana Shrota Sutra? What does it have to say? Let's see. Bodhyayana Shrota Sutra. There we have it. Religious text, right? What does Wikipedia have to say? It's a late Vedic text dealing with blah, blah, blah. Composed in eastern Uttar Pradesh. Because they know exactly where it was composed, right? These geniuses. What does it say? Bodhyayana wrote the sutra, okay. Kanva school, white, the Shweta Yajurveda, and so on, etc. Translation controversy. According to Michael Witzel, this genius here, German-American philologist, Indologist. According to this genius, some passages in this sutra point to the Indo-Aryan migrations. No longer invasion, now they're saying migrations. And so he essentially mistranslated this, saying that Amavasu went eastwards. Not Ayu, it is Amavasu. Okay? But he and Romila Thapar also supported what he says. But if you know anything about Sanskrit, you will realize that it is not eastwards, it's a westward migration that he's talking about. Okay? So it says that Amavasu migrated westwards, and his people are the Aratha, the Gandhara, and the somebody else. So Aratha, we don't know, but Gandhara we clearly know. And the Gandhara, the Parshva, and the Aratha. These are the people of Amavasu, according to this text. The Gandhara people, obviously, it's Gandhara, obviously. It's right here. Northwest India, Afghanistan. That's Gandhar. Everyone knows what that is. Parshu people, Persia, obviously. Aratha could be Armenia, Mount Ararat, perhaps. We don't know for sure. But clearly, this is evidence of a westward migration of ancient Indians during the late Vedic age, whenever it happened. We don't know quite when it happened. They say it's 1000 BC or something, which is nonsense. So these people, Michael Witzel and whatever, they have been trying to obfuscate history. They've been trying to say that, this is evidence of eastward migration, which is a lie. It was a westward migration that was referenced in it. So if you put all these different pieces of evidence together, you can see that there were migrations of India which were recorded in literature. And these migrations went westwards. But this obviously pokes gigantic holes in this Aryan invasion / migration theory that these people love so much.